So, I'm starting up a new vlog. I decided to delve into The Good Girl. Hopefully this one's good because my last book I read, not through Nikki Sloan, but the last book I currently put down today was a DNF. And I am just not in a good mood because I was just so mad at the heroine. So, I'm moving on to this one here. I'm hoping this one's good. And then after that, I'm going to move on to whatever tickles my fancy for, the books that I'm trying to get through before 2026. So we'll see what happens. But this one here, I just started it. So we have the character of Preston. Preston was from the first book in the series. He was the hero's son. And the hero was obviously attracted to his son's girlfriend. So Preston and his girlfriend, I can't remember her name now, they had broken up. And so, the heroine was like, oh, I find Preston's dad very attractive. He's a very attractive man, and so they end up getting together. And they actually form like deeper feelings other than, like banging it out. Obviously they were banging it out, but they obviously developed deeper feelings for each other and it went from there. So I liked the book. I did. You know what? I'd have to reread that one again. Same thing with like The Pool Boy was the second book in that series. And I really enjoyed The Pool Boy a lot. I'd say I probably liked The Pool Boy more than I liked the first book. I think the first book was called The Doctor. I did like the second book more, but I still enjoyed the first book. So I'm hoping with this one here, I like it. We'll see. I do like Nikki Sloan, but like she's kind of hit or miss for me. It depends on, it depends on the trope. It depends on what she does for the story. If it's like where it's multiple partners, I'm just not a fan. I prefer just to be the couple, like, whether it's boy, boy, girl, girl, or boy, girl, either way, whether you're in a gay relationship, straight relationship, lesbian relationship, whatever have you, I just prefer it's just two people, any more than that, it just gets in the way. It just becomes way too complicated and I just don't want to deal with it. So yeah, I'm going to delve into that. And when I get done with that, I'll let you know what I think about it. If I get done with it, hopefully I do, because the past two books I read were DNFs. So yeah, I'm hoping this one will turn my mood around and I'll be happy at the end of the book, hopefully. So fingers crossed, like if I can for this one, for this hand, fingers crossed. But yeah, I'll update you all later. Okay, update. So I finished off The Good Girl. I liked that one. I thought it was good. I would say the only thing that annoyed me was a few characters. Not the main character. I did like her. So with this one here, we have it to where Preston, his name is Preston Lowe, he is still living with his dad. And it's still kind of like a little bit of an awkward situation still, because Preston used to date Cassidy. Her name's Cassidy. I was trying to remember like the heroine's name. Her name's Cassidy. He used to date Cassidy in high school, and then they were going off to college, I think, and going their separate ways, basically. They were growing apart. They still were friends with each other, but they were kind of growing apart. And so in the first book, the doctor, she ends up breaking up with Preston and starts to date his dad. And so, of course, when Preston finds out, he's pissed, he's angry, but, he did get over it. So you obviously can see, like, they were working through it, I even thought it was, like, sweet toward the end, where Preston was basically telling his dad, like, look, if you love Cassidy and you want to marry her, don't let me stop you. He was like, it's okay. I will be okay if you decide to marry her, you know. And I thought that was really sweet that he was like, you know, trying to grow up and be mature, you know, where he was very kind of like immature when you first like got to know him, like in the first book of the Doctor. So this one here, it's like you could see he was trying to change and be better, be a better person. So I'm like, good growth. I like that. I like seeing growth in a character. So Preston is friends with Colin, and Colin's sister is Sydney. And so Colin and Sydney pretty much grew up with very like not just religious parents, but you know, like very strict parents. Very strict parents. They had set rules, and if you obeyed those rules, they pretty much wanted to like, there was no leeway, you know? Like, I don't know, as a parent, it's like you can't give your kids all of these like restrictions because they want to do the complete opposite at that point, you know? And so it's like, I think you have to have a way of like, you raise your kid to be, a good upstanding citizen, all right? Then you have to like, I don't know, lessen the reins a little bit, let them do things on their own, let them be independent, you know, things like that. So Colin ended up getting kicked out years ago because he was, I guess, fucking his girlfriend or whatever it is in the house, and they caught him and they basically threw him out, and they basically didn't want anything to do with him. They like almost shunned him, and I'm like, seriously? Like, I know it's like, I understand like premarital sex. I get that. I get that maybe, you know, you want to wait till you get married before having sex and all that stuff. I understand like the concept. I understand the whole thing behind it and everything like that. And I understand parents that maybe don't want their children to be very promiscuous because it's just, it's not a good, to me, I don't think of it as like, it's not a good place to be. It's you're essentially, to me, I think of it as not respecting your body, because when you are promiscuous, you open up yourself to potential diseases, things like that, you know? Also, there's like societal pressures of like, when it comes to women and you're promiscuous, I'm sorry, but you're still looked at as a WHORE and an SLUT. You're still considered that. I consider men the same way. Like if a man does the same thing as a woman, you know, like I hold guys to the same like standards when it comes to like, look, if you slept around with a lot of women, you're still considered that too, you know? You can hold yourself back from sleeping with a lot of women, you know? So I get kind of frustrated when it comes to like parents that are that strict, because it's like, look, if you're going to be that pig-headed, you are going to lose your children. Your children will one day grow up and say, and leave, you know? If you don't want to have that type of relationship with your children, you need to like loosen the reins. You cannot be that, you know, that strict, that it just, so their parents are that way. So I really was annoyed by the parents. So Colin had left and was living with Preston and Preston's dad, you know, years ago. So Colin and Preston are really close. They're friends. So Colin pretty much was like, I don't want you sleeping with my sister, you know, like stay away from my sister, which on one hand I can understand. Like, she's your sister. You want to protect her. I get it. But where Colin annoyed me was he almost was acting like their parents. And like, what's her name? Sydney. Sydney called him out and she goes, you're acting just like mom and dad. And it was like, that like snapped him, you know, where he was like, oh my God, you know, kind of like he was acting that way. he was acting very pig-headed, like throughout, like when it got toward like the ending of the book, like when he found out that Sydney and Preston were fucking, he got really pig-headed and stupid. And I was like, dude, you have no right to like tell your sister who she can and cannot date. It's like, dude, you're into prawn. You live in a house with, live in like an apartment with your girlfriend, and you guys do prawn, So you're going to go and be that critical? Come on, dude. Your hypocrisy is showing. So he really frustrated me. But I wasn't really a big fan of that book either. Like the last book, I wasn't a fan of it because I don't know. I'm not into like all the partners and everything like that. I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of that. It's not my thing. I mean, if you are a consenting adult and you want to do that, that is your right. Have at it. But it's not for me. Not for me. So I try not to judge, but I'm also like, that's not for me. It's no. I don't like it personally. So Preston was, I'd say, a little bit of a man whore. A little bit, like after him and Cassidy broke up, Preston kind of like was sleeping around. But he also, because he basically, ended up finding out from Cassidy that, sex with them wasn't that great. So he also wanted to learn too and be like obviously a better lover and all that stuff. So when he sees Sydney, he's kind of like on the, I'd say, man whore wagon, where he is trying not to be that type of person anymore, where like just like sleep with chicks and dump them and all that stuff. He's not trying to be like a douchebag, he's trying to be a reformed douchebag, so I guess you'd say that, like a reformed douchebag. But I do like that. I'm like, okay, growth, good on you. You realize what you were doing was wrong. So he sees Sydney, he's like, oh, he's so attracted to her, but he's like, he knows he can't, get with her because he's like, that's Colin's sister. I can't do it. So they end up kissing toward the beginning of the book after they had met and all that stuff. And he was like, basically telling her like, you couldn't handle me, And so a year goes by and then he sees her again and he's like, he can't like hold off anymore. He's like, he's been holding off for like a year of, being really attracted to her. So her way of like, kind of like, what's the term I want to use? Not getting back at, but kind of like defying the things that her parents were trying to do for her of that restriction. She was like, no, you're not going to tell me that I need to do this and do that. Like at the beginning, she had made a deal with her parents where she told them like, look, I'll go to college, I'll do college, but after the 2 years, I want to go to culinary school. She goes, I want to, do more practicing with my cooking, and I want to, I want to do that. She's like, I want to be a cook. She's like, she wants to be a chef. So I'm like, good for her, And so her parents were almost like, what's the term? Like reneging? Is that what it is? Reneging on their deal, like going back on it. And, she was upset. And I'm like, girl, I don't blame her for being upset. So she was upset and they saw each other again, like at this restaurant. And he was like on like, kind of like technically a date. And he ended up ditching his date for Sydney because Sydney was upset, from when their mother was talking to her and had walked out of the restaurant. She was going to get like an Uber home. And so he was like, hey, I'll take you home and we could talk. And so he was talking with her and they have their attraction to each other. So it got to a point where she was like, she's like, I don't want to be like this good girl anymore. She goes, I want to be kind of bad, So she was like telling him like, hey, could you teach me like sex lessons? Because she told him that she was a virgin and everything. And so he was like, okay, so So they end up doing like these sex lessons. And as they're, doing it, they did other things besides sex, but, foreplay, things like that. So, as they were progressing in their, sexual learning things and all that stuff for her, they were falling for each other. So it was really cute. I really enjoyed it. But like I said, it was the parents that really annoyed me, because it's like my advice, like as a parent to other parents, I would say, don't give your children all of these like restrictions, because they will rebel. They will revolt. They will fucking revolt. So it's like, you don't want to be that strict of a parent, but also you don't want to be the type of parent where it's like, oh, we're friends. And it's like, no, you are not your child's friend. You are your child's parent. Be that. You have to set boundaries, but not too much to where you're basically wanting to put them back in the womb, and it's like, you can't protect your child from everything. It's impossible. You can't protect your kid from the world. Eventually, they have to go on their own and discover things. The only thing you can do is continue to be a mentor and advise them, of like maybe like going down this path. Like if you made a lot of mistakes in your life, you could say like, look, I made a lot of mistakes in my life, and so I'm giving you this advice so that way you don't make the same mistakes I did. You could do that, but it's like, don't put like so much like pressure and like restrictions to where you're pushing your child away. You can't do that. So I've seen like different types of parents, like over the years, and I was just like, oh, I do not want to be that type of parent where I'm not like my fucking kid's friend. Like, was the one time my eldest was like, she had said something to me. I'm trying to remember what it was she said. I think she said, hi, sister. And I was like, I am not your sister. I am your mom. And so she was like, So I to me, I'm like, look, it's a disrespect to call me by my name. Do not call me by my name. I'm mom. That's who you call me. But also it's like, I try to have a relationship with my children to where they know that they can come to me and talk to me about things. Like I even, will question them like, how was school? How are the teachers? Is there anything going on that I should know about and we can address? Because you don't know. You're putting your children in the hands of people who could be creepos, who could be creeps. And so it makes me hyper vigilant to where I'm like, if anybody says something to you about like, you don't have to tell your parents this, tell me, because I'm here to protect you. I'm here to advocate for you, So, especially when it comes to my youngest, like my youngest is autistic, and I'm like, I don't want anybody taking advantage of her, because I will go fucking scorched earth. I will go fucking scorched earth for my children. So yeah, you can't have where you're too strict with them, but then on the other hand, you can't be that type of parent where you're clearly neglecting them, clearly neglecting them because you don't know how to parent. And like, this is why you read fucking books, you research, like just because you spawn out a child, it doesn't mean you know how to take care of it. This is why you talk to experts in the field. You go and you research. You read fucking books, So, yeah, to me, it's like, I understood Sydney's, desire that, she's like, I want to respect my parents, but I also want to have it to where I am not that restricted to where she wants to do her own thing. She wants to be a chef. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be a chef, wanting to feed people, So I'm like, no, good for her. She was smart. She was kind. You know, she was respectful. And it's like, there you go, parents. You did your job of creating a good girl, a respectful person, a productive member of society. That's more than what some other people do for their kids. You know, there are some people out there who I've seen blatantly ignore their children, you know, and that pisses me the fuck off, you know, because I'm like, if you're going to be that type of person as a parent, why did you even spawn these children, you know? So just because you can have children, like you physically can have children, doesn't mean you should have them, you know? So yeah, that frustrated me in the story. I did give it 4.5. I still enjoyed it a lot, but it was the frustration of the parents that really pissed me off, and also Colin. And I was like, dude, you are the last person that should be judging who your sister is dating, you know? And I realized that he was a man whore, but he's trying to be reformed. He's trying to be better, you know? And when he was like, you know, looking at her like he's feeling like the same feelings or more for her than how he felt when he was dating Cassidy, because he obviously had feelings for Cassidy. And so I'm like, he obviously is feeling those feelings again of a connection with somebody, not just like who he could sleep with. He was obviously feeling a connection with her, you know, and how she was. And of course, you know, the bonus was she knew how to cook and she was cooking food for him. And he was like, oh, hell yeah, this is great, you know? So that is one way to a man's heart, is to feed him, you know? So yeah, I did enjoy the book. I did really enjoy it. But those were the hiccups for me. It was, sorry if I'm moving the camera around. Those were like the hiccups for me, was her parents, you know, their parents, Colin, her parents, and then Colin himself. And it was like Preston basically telling him, like, if it's between us and our business or Sydney, he goes, I'm going to choose Sydney. And that was kind of like almost a wake-up call for Colin to like, hey, dude, your sister's 20. She's not like she's 16. She's 20. She is a grown-ass adult, you know? So she has to make those decisions for herself, you know? There's only so much you could do to protect, you know, the person you love. There's only so much you can do. So I did like the fact that she had a discussion with her brother, and Preston was basically like, hey, I'm going to choose Sydney over our friendship and over our business, even though he obviously cared about Colin. It was his friend. And it would hurt him if his friend decided to stay mad, you know? It obviously would have affected him. And there was like a slight breakup, you know, basically she was kind of like pushing him away, of like basically saying like, I don't want to be the cause of like you and my brother breaking off your friendship and your business. So she's like, I'll leave, you know? And you could clearly see that, you know, it upset Preston. That's why he was like, look, you know, it's going to be between you and me. We could learn to, you know, learn to get along. And he even like apologized, like, I'm sorry, you know, that, you know, you told me to stay away from your sister and I didn't. He goes, I'm sorry about that. But he's like, I was attracted to her, you know. So there you go. But yeah, I did enjoy it. I did like the book. There's another book in the series. There's another book in the series. It's called The Broker. I'll definitely check that one out. I downloaded that one onto my Kindle. But I'm going to move on to the other stuff that was on my list to read. So I'm going to go and pick up Surviving Rain? No, Surviving Rain. That's what it's called. Surviving Rain. And where it's like the two people, they're on a desert island. So I'll see about that one, see if it's any good. Like I said, I really, really enjoyed Transcendence, that book by Shay Savage. So I wanted to definitely check out the Surviving Rain one. And also it's like they're stranded on an island. I love forced proximity, so I'm really hoping I'll like this one here. So yeah, when I get done with that one, I will update you, say whether or not I liked it or not, and go from there. And then I'm going to I'll try to move on to another book and see my thoughts on that. But yeah, I'll update you all later. Hi everyone, so update. So I was reading Surviving Rain by Shay Savage, and I ended up DNFing it around the 9%, the 9% mark, because I really disliked the hero. I really disliked that man. He was real dick. He was treating the heroine like horribly. So this man he's an alcoholic. He drinks all the time. And he also sleeps around with a bunch of women. One, which I thought was really creepy. And I was like, There was this scene where he's talking about how he was having sex with this woman who he said she looked young, and he wasn't sure if she was the age of like 18, even though he's like, I don't really like to sleep with girls that are, not 18, because, he grew up in the States. But other countries, the age of consent is younger. So it's like he was potentially having sex with like a 16 or 17-year-old. And I'm just like, ask for ID, like before you bang this chick, even though she's like obviously a prostitute, but still it's like, I don't feel comfortable with that. Like, I just don't feel comfortable with it. So I really just was like, him like questioning like the girls, the young lady's age, like, and he's still like having sex with her while he's questioning it. And I'm just like, I didn't like that. And so I'm like, okay. And I'm trying to like, read it. And then the ship sinks. Where I'd say maybe it's not considered a sink. Maybe it's not considered, the ship is probably more considered like a schooner, like a sailboat, like, sailboat. I'm just reminding of a movie. Like I get a lot of movie references that'll be like up in my head that are like, I basically can't do anything with my movie references. But every time I say a schooner, it reminds me of the movie Mallrats, where the one character, he's looking at this like design, and it's one of those things like back in the 90s, they had those weird pictures where if you stare at it long enough, you could see a picture within a picture kind of thing. And so the one character, I think his name was Willem or something, he goes and he's looking at this picture and he's trying to see this sailboat. And so this little boy goes up and he's looking at it, and the kid's like, oh, it's a schooner. And his character's like, you dumb bastard. He calls this kid a dumb bastard. You dumb bastard. It's not a schooner, it's a sailboat. And so the kid's like, schooner is a sailboat, stupid head. And he gets mad at the kid and he's like, you know what? There is no Easter Bunny. You know what that is? That's just a guy in a suit. I was like, oh my god, he's such a dick. That character was such a dick. It's just funny though. It's so, it just, when I see schooner, it reminds me of the movie. And that's probably like the only, like, there's only a couple or a few movies that I actually like from Kevin Smith. Like, I don't really like Kevin Smith anymore. I used to like him as a director, but now I think he's kind of a fucking douchebag. But I used to like his movies back in the day. So one of them I still enjoy is Mallrats. So when I say schooner, it just reminds me of that scene. Sorry, I get like movie references in my head all the time, and I just, I quote them, and things like that. So it's a lot of stupid knowledge I have up in my head. So anyways, the schooner goes down, and he ends up rescuing the heroine, her name is Rain. And he just continues to like belittle her and berate her and just be a total dickhead to her while they're on this raft. You know, he like takes like this energy bar and breaks off like a little piece for her to eat and throws it at her. And I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you, man? You know, and then like she's telling him, I have to go to the bathroom. And he's like, you're gonna have to, you know, sit your ass, you know, over on the side and go piss, you know? And she's like, you know, looking at him like, well, can you turn away, you know? Because she's got to take off her bathing suit. And he's like, oh, you know, and I'm just like, really, dude? You were such a dick. Maybe it would have been better if you went down with the ship. Like if you didn't wake up from your drunken stupor. So I just really disconnected from this man because of like these issues. And so I'm like, I cannot deal with this guy. It reminded me of like my ex, like, you know, with like, I get sometimes like when it comes to like heroes or say somebody has an alcohol problem in a book, sometimes I can have a trigger for that because I've dealt with an alcoholic ex and the things that he said to me when he was drunk. You know, like he had two sides to him, like a Jekyll Hyde when it came to like being sober and being drunk. He had his Jekyll Hydes, you know, like there would be times when if he say he's happy when he gets drunk, then he's more of a chatty Cathy, talk my ear off, talk about his dreams, different things like that he wanted for his future. But if he's angry and he gets drunk, then he's a nasty drunk. He goes and starts talking shit to me, starts talking shit about his exes and all this other shit, you know, and how they're bad women and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, if you run into a lot of bad women, usually it's because of you. You know, like if I'm saying, oh, I had all these exes that were just douchebags, I either am the unluckiest person in the world or I choose these people so I can complain about them later, you know? Or maybe I'm not a good person, you know? So sometimes you have to look at yourself and be like, am I the asshole? Am I the one that's causing issues? So self-reflection. I know for me, like there's some exes that I've chosen that I'm like, it wasn't a good pick for me. But were they terrible people? No, they just weren't a right fit for me, you know? So when it comes to this book, there were a lot of things that the hero really annoyed the fuck out of me. And I felt bad for the heroine. I was like, oh, girl, do not fall for this douchebag. I'm like, please do not fall for this douchebag. I'm like, he needs to do a whole turnaround. And even then, it's like, am I going to justify this guy dating her because, oh, he had a change of heart all of a sudden? And it's like, this guy was a douchebag. It's kind of hard to find redemption with this person when they're such a dick. So it all depends on the author, you know, how they turn it around. And I was just like, So for me, I was just like, nah, I can't. So it kind of put me in a little slump where I'm like, what do I want to read next? Do I want to continue on with my list right now? Or do I want to like push it off for a little bit and just trying to like read something else? So I decided to delve into something else. And I ended up DNFing that one because I wasn't really feeling the author's writing. And so I was like, well, what else can I read? And so I'm like, oh, let me pick up this Ruby Dixon book. So I ended up picking up this one here. I'm about 19% in. It's, you know, it's just a quick novella. It's a holiday novella. So this one here is When She's Stuffed. So this is based on like Thanksgiving type of, you know, holiday novella. And so we got the character of Pamela and what's his name again? What is his name? How do you say his name again? Toghar, or it's Togar. It could be Togar. Toghar. I'm going to say Togar and have it to where maybe the H is silent. Togar. So she is the royal cook for this planet. Or I say for the king. Because there's this Riz the 3 planet. You know, if you've read the Ruby Dixon series, you know, she's got multiple series. But if you read her series, she has like, there was Ice Planet Barbarian series, which that was taking place like on this ice planet. And then you've got Ice Home, which is basically essentially part of the ice planet as well, but it's like different people that they met and all that stuff along the way. And then you have this other planet that's called Rizda 3, which is basically used as essentially a sanctuary for these women that were taken from planet Earth. And either some of them could be clones, some of them could be they were former sex slaves, things like that. And so they have like obviously trauma. And so the king, Lorin, or I think it was Varin or Lorin, something like that, Varin, he ends up using the planet as his sanctuary for these women, so they have a sense of peace. And so they all, most of them pretty much have like their own little farms. And so the constables and basically these police officers in the town end up like watching out for the ladies, making sure that they're not being abused by any of the other aliens on the planet or anything like that. So Pamela is one of the cooks that works for the king to feed him, his wife, and his family. His wife is human, he's an alien. And so they have obviously offspring from that. The way the offspring works, it's different compared to like the Ice Planet Barbarian series. Like Ice Planet, Ice Home, they all took place on the ice planet, which Georgie, who's the first lady in the series, they ended up naming it Not Hoth. Like if you know what Hoth is basically like a Star Wars reference. So the planet's called Not Hoth because I think Hoth was like a very warm planet. So she wanted to do like a reversal where it's called Not Hoth, where it's like frozen. So for that one there, they had these parasites that were keeping them alive. And so the parasite would be like injected into like the chest, and it'd be like right in here. And so it would change like the color of your eyes. Your eyes would be kind of like this really bright, kind of like bluish eyes. And the parasite was essentially keeping them alive, keeping them from being sick, because the planet was basically it was like a planet that no one can really survive on. So the only thing that was keeping them alive was like these parasites. So you'd have to basically put them in every person. And so from there, they were able to, the Masaka men were able to reproduce with the human women because of the parasite and all that stuff. Where normally the aliens with the human women, they have to do more of get help with like get these injections that will cause the women to like get into a reproductive cycle and be able to mate with the aliens. So that's basically what happened with the king with his wife. They were able to reproduce with these like injections and stuff like that, which is obviously a form of like fertility treatment and stuff like that, So with this here, Pamela is the cook, and she decides that she wants to create sort of like a Thanksgiving feast for the family and stuff like that. And so the Togar, his character, he's essentially he's a guard, obviously a royal guard for the palace, and he obviously has liked Pamela ever since he saw her and has a crush on her. And he's obviously, has feelings for her, and he wants to like confess his feelings. And so Pamela sees him, and she, she likes him. She thinks he's sweet, but he's obviously very shy. And so that's basically what it is with this one here. So I'm hoping I enjoy this one. And then when I get done with it, I'll tell you what I think about it. And then from there, I don't know where I want to go. If I want to go and continue on and try to read some of the other books, if I can get back into that mood again to read some of these books, or delve into something else. I'll see how that goes. But yeah, that Surviving Rain one, oof, that did not do it for me. I was really having a hard time with that hero. He was really frustrating me to no end. But anyways, that's it for right now. I will update you all later when I get done with the novella and go from there. I might delve into some other like holiday ones and maybe go from there, because I really need to get through some holiday books. So I might do that. I might end up doing that if I can get into like the holiday spirit. So yeah, I'll update you all later. Okay, update. So I finished off the Ruby Dixon book. Was it When She's Stuffed? That one there was a short, so it was very short. It wasn't like a regular novella. So it was like, what, 30, 40 pages? So it was very quick. And so I thought it was cute. I mean, I gave it a 4. I thought it was fine. I would have preferred if it was longer. Instead of it being a short, I would have preferred if it was more of a novella. So you could see a little bit more of the couple's relationship, of like building that, relationship. This here was like very quick, so I'm like, I really wanted a little bit more from that story, but it was fine, So I decided to delve into, after that one, I was like, let me delve into this book here, because I've had this book on my shelf for a while. And I got like a couple of chapters in, and I'm like, you know what? This is definitely not for my demographic, not for my age. I'd say if you're in your 20s, then this book might, appeal to you. But I'm reading it, I'm just like, I'm not feeling this. And I'm like, I feel like I'm too old reading it. I honestly feel like I'm too old. So you got these characters where the one guy is a total douchebag. This guy's a douche. His name is Carter. And so he, as a part of the NHL. And the characters kind of read more young to me. Like, I don't know how old this guy is, but it's like, he almost seems like he's 20, like 2019, around there. And I know he's probably older. If he's in the NHL, he's probably a little bit older. And I'm like, these guys is reading very young to me. Same thing with like the heroine is reading kind of very young to me. And I'm just like, oh no, it just seems like it's a little bit immature, because you got the character of Carter, and this guy's a total playboy. Obviously, these puck bunnies, they sleep with him, they expect more, yeah, if you're a puck bunny, you're looking for a paycheck. You're looking for a dude to hook up with that's an NHL player, because they make good money, and you think that you can possibly either get him to marry you, put a baby in you, and you've got bank. Women are like this. A lot of puck bunnies are like this. They're looking for a paycheck. So he got done with screwing this one chick at the beginning of the book, and he's saying, okay, like, bye. And to me, it's like, is he a douchebag? Fucking yes, he is a douchebag. But ladies, when you go and hook up with a guy that night, when you just met him, what do you expect? What do you honestly expect? You think that this guy's going to wine and dine you? You think that you got a gold-plated pussy, that he's just going to go and just like put a ring on it just like that? No. So with this one here, it's like he obviously looks at the one heroine, and he's like, oh, you know, I want to hook up with her. And it was like, it's like a friend of a friend. He's friends with this one player, and the player is dating this one chick. And the one chick's friend, what's her name again? What's the friend? Olivia? Olivia is the one that Carter is interested in. And so I'm like, okay, we're obviously going to be playing, you know, a game of mouse here. You know, play games to where she's going to like play hard to get him, like, you know, because that's basically what women need to do. Like, if a dude is interested in you, you play a little bit of harder to get, you know, just, you know, you kind of reel him in a little bit. You don't go and like, you show him that you're interested, but you don't go and sleep with the guy on the first freaking night, you know? Men are not going to respect you if you give it up too easy, you know? So with all of these other chicks, these puck buddies, of course he's not interested in them, you know? So with her, it's like, yeah, he's going to be interested because he wants to sleep with her. And so for me, I'm like, I felt like the characters, they felt too young, you know? They felt young, and I'm just like, I don't know, I'm not really feeling this story. You know, it seems like it'd be for like the young TikTok crowd. That's what I feel. I feel like it's the young TikTok crowd would definitely dig that. So that's one book I can go and sell now and get rid of it. I sell my books on Pango Books and stuff. I don't sell them for a lot because people are fucking cheap, you know, and don't want to pay how much for a book. So I sell them for cheap just to get rid of them. So I DNF'd that one, and I'm like, not feeling it. They feel like too young to me, and that, you know, the guy is just, he's just there just to have sex with her, you know? And it just seemed like, I'm like, this looks awfully long, you know? Like, look how thick this book is. This looks awfully long just for like a hookup book, you know? So I was like, nah, I'm not feeling that. So I DNF'd that one. And I decided to delve into the next book I have on my list that is a physical copy I own. That is like, I think it's called The Graham Effect by Elle Kennedy, because I did like Elle Kennedy. I still like her first book. I have a special edition of her first book, The Deal, that was part of that, you know, college hockey. I still like that book, you know? So I was like, let me delve into this one, because I think these books are like a spin-off of I think they're a spin-off. So I'm gonna try to delve into this one, because I've had it on my Kindle for a little while too, and see if I could delve into that. If not, I'm gonna delve into the other one, and if I can't get into that one, then you know, those are more books that I'm gonna be selling, get them off my you know, off my shelves, and just, you know, get rid of them. And so that's going to be on my Kindle. But in the daytime, I'm going to attempt and hopefully get into this one here, since it is a Christmas story. I love the cover. The cover is so pretty. It's such a cute cover. I really hope it's not AI. I don't think it is. I really hope not. But it's pretty. It's a pretty cover. I really like that one a lot. So, and then, you know, you have, it's got sprayed edges and stuff. So I'm going to try to delve into that one in the daytime. Sometimes I do that. Like, I'll delve into a book in the daytime, and then at night I'll read my Kindle. So we'll go from there. But yeah, I'm going to go in. I'm going to try to get into The Graham Effect tonight, and see how that goes, see if I can get into it or not. Because like I said, I used to like Elle Kennedy's writing, but I ended up getting out of her. Because there was this one series where I really just disliked the series. I could not get into it. So I'm hoping this one here will kind of like put me back in, or not. You know, sometimes, you know, I'll have an author where they appeal to me for a certain time, and then after a while I'm like, this author doesn't appeal to me anymore. Like, I can't really get into their books anymore. And so I end up stop reading certain authors. And it's not like there's anything bad. It just, you know, I've lost interest in their writing, you know. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to delve into The Graham Effect and see how that goes. If that one doesn't go over for me, there was the other book in the series that was like the second book in the series. try to get into that. But those books are fucking long too. And I'm like, why do these books have to be so fucking long? Why are they so thick? You know? Ugh. And it's like, it's not like I'm looking for like novellas all the time. I want a story that you can wrap up within 400 pages and it doesn't seem like it's a long story. You know, some of these books, it's like, it looks like they're just huge, you know? So yeah, I'll update you all later to see how, you know, if I got through the book or if it's another DNF, and go from there. But yeah, I'm slowly but surely getting through more of my physical copies I have, just so it gives me more room. And same thing with like in 2026, you know, like challenging myself every month or every other month to delve into more of my historical romances, because I have a lot of historical romances, so I need to get through more of them. And so I'm like, you know what? If I can get through more of my physical copies, good, you know? And then it's like, you know, it gives me more of my shelf space that I can put the books away, you know, all that stuff, and whatever else that I don't care for, I can like donate and all that stuff. So like my local library right now is not taking in books. They're not taking any donations. They probably have a lot. So now it's like trying to find other places that I can donate the books to, or sell them for like super cheap, you know? So yeah, I'll update you all later and see how it goes when it comes to like this book here and it comes to the Graham Effect. I'll update you all later. Okay, so update. This is going to be my last update because I don't want this vlog to be super long. So, okay, so I went and tried to get through the Graham Effect. This one here, I think the problem I had with it was it felt very long. Like it had, I think if an editor went in and took out like how many more things, I think it would have been, if it was tightened up better, it would have been a better story for me to get through. But there was a lot of like stuff in it that I just really didn't care about. You know, it was just like extra things like, these characters are college age, so and now I don't even remember their names. Like it just tells you like how much I actually cared about the story. So I ended up DNFing this one maybe like around 9% or so. I really didn't get through it that much, and I ended up skimming the rest of the book. I ended up kind of like taking my Kindle and just skimming through the chapters just to see like what happened. And I got pretty far with it before I finally like had just said, I don't care. I think I was about 80% in and I was like, I don't care. Because otherwise it'll say like I read the book and I'm like, I didn't read it. You know, I skimmed basically the book. So I don't want to go and have it to where it'll show like on Goodreads, like, oh, you read this. And I'm like, no, I didn't. I did not finish the book. I skimmed through it. So we got the character of Gigi, who is the daughter of, what's his name there? Gerrit Graham, I think that's what it was. Gerrit Graham. He's the hero from the first book, The Deal, you know? So it's basically, it's a spin-off series of like the second generation. And I'll just say like right now, I am not a fan of second generation series. I've tried getting into like how many of them, they don't work for me. They don't work. I end up like not liking the characters as parents, you know, or they have it to where they make the parents look stupid, and I'm just like, I will say I wasn't a huge fan of the heroine. I really didn't, you know, she was okay, but I wasn't really a big fan of her. And you had this other character who they ended up like bumping into each other when they were teenagers. And then they see each other again in like college. And so they kind of like started off like having kind of like this little bit of animosity where she was on the rink practicing because she plays hockey, which it's like, look, the reason why there is no professional women's hockey and there's no like other sports that are like more professional for women is because women don't fucking watch sports, okay? Most women out there don't watch sports. This is why women's leagues don't do well. This is why women don't get paid the amount of money that the NFL gets paid, or the NHL gets paid, or the NBA gets paid. The WNBA women don't get paid as much as the men do because the WNBA is funded by the NBA. This is why the women don't get paid as much as maybe Kobe Bryant did, or Michael Jordan did, or all these other people. Do people watch women's sports? No. Fucking guys watch women's sports over women watching it. Like, do I watch women's sports? No, I don't. I don't care. The only thing I will watch is I will watch hockey. I do like NHL, so I will watch hockey games. Not frequently, though. I mean, if it's, I don't pay attention to the seasons. But if I was like, dating somebody, or, like say my husband liked the NHL, I would watch the games with him, because I do like hockey. My uncles played in not professional sports. It was more of like beer league and all that stuff. So my uncles for years played hockey. My one uncle did goalie, and then the other one did more of the outside area, whatever the other players are called, left wing, right wing, or whatever it is. The guys who skate out. So both of my uncles were really good at hockey, but they never got to the point of like professional. So I used to go and watch their games and stuff. So I got to know the sport. So I do like it, but not enough to where I'm like, oh, I'm going to watch a girls' league. I don't care. No offense to women, no offense, but women are not as fast on the ice that men are. Men are like, especially like the professionals, they fucking zoom down the ice, Women, not as fast. So watching women play hockey, it's not as entertaining. I'm sorry. So, people may not like me for that opinion, but I just don't think women are really good at sports. I mean, there are those rare exceptions that you find a female athlete's really good, but there are those rare exceptions, like, having men or women go to the Olympics, is a feat right there. All the stuff that you have to do to get to that level, that's an athlete, the ones that go on to the Olympics and stuff like that. So, for me, when it comes to like women's sports and stuff, not a fan. Especially like people like try to hype up that Angel Reese woman. That's that basketball player. She sucks. Have you seen her like put a ball in the hoop at all? Because every time I see her, she's missing a hoop. So I'm like, that woman sucks. She is not a good player, And then the actual good player is what's her name there? What's the other chick's name? I can't remember her name. But I'm like, if you want to talk about someone who's good at the sport, good at basketball, it's the other one. I can't remember her name though. But people like to give the other one shit because she actually knows how to play the game. Oh, because she's a white girl, And it's like, I don't care. I'm like, if you suck, you suck. I don't care what race you are. If you suck at the sport, you suck at it. Just because you're tall doesn't mean you're good at sports, So, for me, the character of Gigi was very much like, oh, well, we need to have kind of like a professional hockey. And it's like, but women don't watch it. Women don't watch the fucking sport. Hence why women don't get paid as much as the males do, because NFL NHL, NBA makes way more money than these female leagues do. It's just facts, because people don't go to the games. You know, when you look at the audience crowd of the WNBA versus the NBA, it's vastly different, you know? So for me, I'm like, I don't care about female sports. I don't. You know, I just prefer that biological women are playing in the leagues, you know? So for me, I don't really care about it. So for her character, she was like, oh, I want to be, you know, go to this, but because there's no like professional hockey teams for females, the only thing she can kind of like maybe look forward to is like maybe going off to the Olympics, which, you know, like I said, is a feat, you know, yourself to get off to the Olympics. You know, it's an accomplishment to do that, you know. So no shade there. You know, like I couldn't even play in a, you know, like the Special Olympics, you know. there'd be people in the Special Olympics would beat my ass. So, you know, for me, I'm not good at sports. So it's not my strong suit, because of my feet and everything. So I can't do any of that stuff. So with her, she wanted to, you know, possibly go off to the Olympics and different things like that. And where obviously the guy she starts, you know, like sleeping with, and this is the thing, like their relationship was very much like, oh, we're just gonna kind of scratch an itch. And I was like, ugh. I don't like that whole aspect of like, I'm not a big fan of those romance stories where it's like they start off as more of like a hookup, and it's like you gotta really reel me in order for me to be okay with, you know, with that type of relationship, because I'm not into like the hookups and stuff. So what this here was like, it was a lot that it was just very drawn out. And so I'm like, I am not feeling this book at all. So I ended up DNFing it and then skimming the rest of it, and had it to where obviously the more time they spent together, the more they, you know, obviously fell for each other. And I honestly, like when I was reading it, skimming through, I'm like, I don't really feel like they developed enough of a relationship to fall for each other. It just felt very like, oh, because the more time we spend with our naughty bits going in and out with each other, the more we feel, and it's like, no, there's got to be more to it than just, you know, you guys banging out really well. There's just got to be more to it, you know. It can't be just that. So to me, I felt like it was very shallow. So I was like, you know, not feeling this. So I ended up like, okay, well, I'm definitely going to get rid of that book. So I put that on my Pango Books. And then I didn't want to bother with the other one, the second book in that series. I was like, nah, I'm good. I don't want to, you know, I don't, you know, I'm not into like Elle Kennedy anymore. She's definitely for like, you know, people who are like in their 20s and stuff like that. If you're young 20s and, you know, you like that type of like relationship stuff, then, you know, that book is for you. But I definitely think I've reached the peak of, some of these books are like too young for me, you know? So yeah, I got through that one. And right now I'm kind of like in between two books. I'm physically reading the Good Spirits. I'm physically reading that one. And I have a Kindle book right now that I'm reading that's a novella. And that one's a Christmas story. And I think it's called The Mistletoe Fix, I think. I think it's by Maren Moore. I'll have to put it right here. But I'm reading that one. It's okay. Right now, it's okay. But yeah, I think I'm gonna end this. I'll end this vlog, because I don't want it to be like super, super long, because people like tune out, you know, after a certain point. So yeah, I will probably talk about Good Spirits at the end of the month. Same thing for the mistletoe, I think that's called Mistletoe Fix, something like that. I'll talk about that one too at the end of the month and what I thought about it. because I need to have some books to talk about at the end of the month. Some books, well, for the end of the month. So yeah, I'll talk about those ones the end of December, and what I think about those, and what else is there to talk about? Oh yeah, I added on in my description, I usually put like other places you can find me, but I just put in a book wish list. So if anybody, no pressure, if anybody wanted to get me something like a book or whatever it is, I know there's some people, like I got a book before from somebody, they went and bought me a book. If anybody's interested in buying me a book, I have a wish list down in my description. If you click on my description, you'll find it down there, down below. And so if anybody is, wants to buy me a book, it's going to be just basically books that I've already read that I enjoy, rather than pick me up something that you're not sure if I'm going to like it or not. These are all books that I've read. All the books that I've read, I put them on the list of like, I do want to pick them up, eventually. So if anybody's interested and they want to, go ahead. I just feel kind of like weird to do it, like, oh, buy me a book, like, I just kind of feel like I feel kind of weirded out. But I know like other people do it, and, and all that stuff. Some people like to buy books for other people and all that. So I figured I would just add it there. If you're interested, awesome. If not, that's okay too. I'm not forcing you to, no pressure to buy me anything. So yeah, that's pretty much it though for this vlog here. As I said, next year, I already have a vlog posted for, I think, February. I already have a vlog posted for that because I pre did the vlog. But I'm going to stick with, whenever I do my vlogs in 2026, they're going to be historical romances, all historical romances, because I have so many books that I physically own that are mass market paperbacks that I need to get through. And I have a lot of them. So I'm like, 2026 is going to be my year of like every other month, or at least try every month to read at least a few historical romances, whether it's on my Kindle or I'm physically reading it. Either way, I want to pay more attention to historical romances, because a lot of people do not talk about them. And so I need to get my ass in gear and do it. I read a lot more on my Kindle, but I definitely need to go through my list of books that I have, my physical copies, and pick up a book and start chugging along. It takes me a little bit longer to get through a physical book because there's a lot of things I do in the day where I run errands and stuff, and it's hard to kind of like take along a physical copy of something, so it's easier for me to put my Kindle in my bag, and then like my husband driving somewhere, I can read a chapter or whatever it is, or I can get through a book quicker that way. But yeah, that's it for this one here. I'm gonna try to do that for 2026, and hopefully I'm successful with like paring down some more of my physical copies, so I have more room of the stuff that I currently own, and I can organize it a little bit better and all that stuff. So but yeah, that's it for this video here. Have yourselves a good day, take care of yourselves, and if I don't see you, have yourself a good holiday, and all that stuff. So see you on the next one. Bye.